Hello, and in today's video we are doing an FPL review of game week number 3. That's right, back with another FPL video, and today we're going to be looking back at what was, for many managers, a successful game week 3. The average score in game week 3 was quite similar actually to the average score for game week 2. I mean, I myself had a pretty awful game week 2. I say awful, it was okay when some managers had stinkers, but I ended up getting 50 points in game week 2, which I was quite happy with the average of 44. The average, yet again, was 44 this week. So what we're going to do is talk through my game week 3 results, where did that impact my rank, and how am I going to be talking about my team going into game week number 4. But before I do continue, I'd just like to show you this. FPL lessons, why 5-man midfields are the way to go for managers. They're saying it now, but trust me, I had 3-5-2 all pre-season, and that is very satisfying when those kind of things pay off. So if you do think about formations this FPL season, I had a feeling that in pre-season there just looked to be too many good value midfielders, and that is the way this FPL season is turning out. So yeah, do try and make sure, if you're not already in a 3-5-2, it just makes the most sense, because there's not a lot of forwards in the game that are really going off. Unlike, obviously Haaland is a non-negotiable, you have to have him. But outside of that, there's not loads of people that are smashing the game. And defenders, they're not really keeping the clean sheets this season. And there's not really expensive defenders getting points, much like the start of last season. But it is about having those kind of 3, maybe 4 if you're lucky, but usually 3 attacking fullback defenders. So you've got 3 in defence, a 5 in midfield, and a 2 up front. Makes sense. So yeah, just a little piece of advice there, really, because the Premier League, it's a great little article they've got here about all the goals that are being scored in midfield and some good options. But talking of good options, or what I thought were good options, that is my game week 3 team, and yeah, it was a shambles. I can't lie. I can't dress this up any other way, and I've just got to, bite the bullet and just take the pain of this game week and hopefully be on to bigger and better things in game week 4. But yes, we did have another red arrow, so that's 2 red arrows now to start the season, and I was pretty happy with 50 last week, in considering, it was quite a tough week for many. This week, though, a lot of people got in the 50s, some even in the 60s, and if you got above 65, then you had an absolute storming game week. But it was quite a hard, in my view, week to predict for FPL, because, on paper, you could have had a brilliant team. There were some great fixtures on paper. You had the likes of Arsenal up against Fulham, Manchester United hosting Nottingham Forest, Manchester City travelling to Sheffield United. Some amazing fixtures for the premium template assets. I say premium, but the only real premium in the game that's doing amazingly is of course Haaland. I do say amazingly. He of course missed a penalty, not like him, but then made up for it with his goal. But yeah, ultimately there were some great fixtures. It looked like everyone was going to have amazing weeks. But this is FPL sometimes. You can have a great team on paper and it just doesn't go your way. And I think ultimately it's at this stage of a season where you need to be patient, because it'd be very easy to react to this points total from me this week and start to go on tilt. And if you don't know what on tilt means, it's kind of a term that's used in poker where if things don't go your way, you start making irrational decisions to try and make up for it. So for instance, I remember last season, right, I had this painful week, which was the week of the wildcard in game week 26. And I had the likes of Alexis McAllister for Brighton in my team. I had the likes of, I'm trying to remember now, Maddison whilst he was at Leicester, these kind of players. And that was, of course, the week that Liverpool scored 7 against Manchester United. And a lot of people were talking about that game week 26 wildcard as a good time to do it. Liverpool had just not been that great in the previous games leading up to that. And people took Salah and Darwin out of their teams. And then they proceeded to then score a hatful against an informed Manchester United side under Erik ten Hag. So it was pain. It was absolute pain, because I remember watching that Liverpool game, not really enjoying the football for what it was, just feeling depressed about FPL. And ultimately, it's all about that this season. You have to try and remove, as much as it's hard, because you watch a game and you just cheer on your own FPL players, but you've got to try and remove the football game from the FPL game. And football always should come first. As a Watford fan, watching a football match is the best thing. Not actually watching Watford these days because we're a bit up and down in the Championship, but generally in the Premier League, it's an amazing league, so unpredictable, and that's why you can't beat yourself up every week if things don't go to plan, because we are predicting the most unpredictable league with bringing in FPL players. So look, at the end of the day, I do admit that, I've had a bad week and I will hold my hands up, but I also look at it and think I was a bit unlucky too, because we'll get to it, but there's a few narratives here where it's just very, very unfortunate. I was talking about that painful game week 26 wildcard. I remember the pain that I went through when Maddison was playing away to Southampton. He created everything, but none of his teammates at Leicester could finish the chances. And meanwhile, sat first on bench was Alexis McAllister with a 14-pointer, and he wasn't actually that highly owned at the time, and it was so painful. Luckily, I've not had that pain this season. My bench has been very, very cheap, so I've never had bench regret so far this season, although it always seems to haunt me every season, bench points. But yeah, this game week was, on paper, a good one. But I did go into it knowing that I'd have to play the dice and have a bit of a gamble. And I don't like that many hits every single game week because I'm quite a template safe manager. Like, if I can roll a transfer, I do. But if my team is in a state where I'm not happy with it, I'm not going to kind of just make no transfers for the sake of it. I'm going to try and fix any things that I think are problems, any fires. And in game week 2, I had this kind of moment, really. Before the deadline of game week 2, I'm not joking, it was about 10 minutes before deadline. I was going to be fine, all fine and dandy, going to roll the transfer in game week 2, because I've done that pretty much every season, or at least most of the ones I can remember in FPL in my career as an FPL manager. I always like that second free transfer in game week 3, and then it means you can kind of have a mini wild card. You can make 3 transfers if you want, take a -4, and really attack game week 3. I ended up taking a -4 despite only having one free transfer, because of the fact I'd used the transfer in game week 2. And shall I tell you why I used a transfer in game week 2? All of a sudden, I got cold feet on Matty Cash. Now, I don't think it's just the fact that they conceded 5 in the first game, because we know Newcastle are a good attacking side. For me, it was more how nailed is this guy? Because we know, of course, in the past he's been good at Villa, he's got attacking returns, but that was a couple seasons ago, right? And I looked at this Villa defence. They recruited Pau Torres. They had the likes of Konza sometimes playing at right back. And Ezri Konsa was mainly the most important factor that I thought in pre-season. There's been times Konza's fitted in at right back with Torres playing. I mean, obviously the injury to Mings, does mean there's less defenders, but they still had Diego Carlos. They had lots of options, and Luca Dean as well. So it just made me a bit worried that I thought against Everton in game week 2, Villa would line up with a back 4 of, because I didn't think Cash was brilliant against Newcastle, a back 4 of Luca Dean, Pau Torres, Diego Carlos, and Ezri Konsa. And obviously he did miss that sitter against Newcastle as well, Cash. But of course, what ends up happening is Matty Cash does play the game against Everton. And I sold Cash because I wasn't happy with his minutes. And I brought in Rico Henry in game week 2. And, I'll talk about it. I did talk about it in my game week 2 review last week that Matty Cash, obviously, this week is a bit different, but generally, I did feel better about that transfer, because going forward, the fixtures that I brought in for the new guy, that was, of course, Rico Henry, I loved Brentford's fixtures from game week 2 onwards. They had Fulham away, a team that was not looking great without Mitrovic in the team. So I was confident of a clean sheet. I got that clean sheet from Rico Henry. He did, unfortunately, though, get booked, and that's just unlucky. And so in the end, I took the one transfer and Cash ended up getting 6 points against a woeful Everton attack. They have just signed this guy from Udinese or something, I think, Beto. But whether or not he's, any good, we have to wait and see. But ultimately, yeah, Everton just not helping me out there at all. But yeah, it was 1 point difference. It was one free transfer. I wasn't going to sweat on it. But I knew that I wanted to get out Cash, and I knew that would come at the cost of having 2 frees in game week 3. So I had a feeling that I needed Chilwell in game week 3, because the first 2 game weeks I was hiding behind the sofa, not having him. Because I just thought, I don't trust the Chelsea defence. I know last season they were shambles, and I know that he's been playing forwards, very attacking in pre-season, but I didn't read loads into pre-season. I looked at bits, but I just didn't fancy that Chelsea clean sheet chances. And then they didn't look great, actually, against West Ham, and I kind of thought, should I not actually get Chilwell in game week 3? But I decided Chilwell was a priority move because he had a lovely fixture in Game Week 3 against Luton at home. And I was like, that is a guaranteed clean sheet with how poor Luton have been to start the season. So I had to bring in him. He was an essential for me. But also, I really like the look of Brian Mbeumo. Now, Mbeumo, I'll admit, I'll hold my hands up. This was a mistake from pre-season, right? I watched pre-season, and when I watched Brentford play, I liked Yohan Wissa way more for Brentford. But I never went for Wissa because I really liked Joao Pedro for, 0.5 cheaper. And the first 3 fixtures for Brighton was so nice. So I wasn't going to go for Mbeumo based on that. I thought he was not as good as Wissa. And he was playing quite deep still. He was having shots. But he was often, hitting the post as he often does. But also, he just wasn't that main kind of attacking source for Brentford. It was more... Mbeumo wasn't playing too well in pre-season. It was Wissa was your guy. So... I was just never keen, really, all pre-season on the Mbeumo train. But then when I saw that the couple of games that, I watched with, again, behind the sofa without Mbeumo, I realised that actually he's so much more than just the penalty taker in that team. And actually, he was, in the Premier League games at least, having chances, right? And his XGI, which is expected goal involvement, was actually quite high, even for his non-penalty XGI. And obviously, when you're on penalties, it skews the numbers. But even off penalties, not in considering those numbers, he was getting involved in games, and he looked quite good, I thought, against Tottenham. In the fact that he had chances, he did miss one, which was a bit of a sitter, but at least he's having those chances and he's involved. And then against Fulham, it was just pain because I knew that was a great fixture, and I probably should have gone into that Fulham game with a Brentford attacker, but. As I said, I just wanted to fix that fire with cash. I was happy with the rest of my attack, and it did do well in Game Week 2. As I say, 50 points was decent. But when I saw that 16-pointer, it wasn't a knee-jerk decision. As I say, I kind of hadn't quite realised how much of a good FPL asset Mbeumo was, including the Game Week 1 fixture and including, his time at the start of the season. So I corrected that mistake in Game Week 3, and I brought in Mbeumo for Game Week 3, because ultimately I looked at it and thought, I do need this guy. The 6.5 is a great value this season, and one player that I didn't think was good value in the first couple of weeks was Mohamed Salah. Now, controversial, of course, that transfer of Salah, because you look at it and think, okay, he's differential for the first time in probably most of his FPL career, but the way I looked at it was, from 2 weeks, I expected much more from him on the captaincy in Game Week 2, and he just didn't bring it home. He didn't deliver it. And I was really disappointed from that. And I just looked at it and thought, why would I go for someone like Salah when Mbeumo's doing so well for so much of a cheaper price? So, I went for it. I brought in Mbeumo. And of course, it was just my luck that was the week that Brentford decided to not score from Wissa or Mbeumo. And it was Kevin Schade, the guy that's been brought in as this kind of backup for Tony. So, it's just typical FPL variance that. But let's go through the pain that was Game Week 3. So as I mentioned, I brought in Henry in Game Week 2 for Matty Cash. Looked like a decent decision with Brentford having a nice run of fixtures, really. That clean sheet against Fulham, then a Palace game at home, and then Bournemouth. There was some really nice fixtures on the horizon for Brentford. But 43 was really, really annoying. And when you consider the -4... and it was 39, and the -4 basically just didn't work. But on paper, it looked like it would. So goalkeeper, Andre Onana, this guy, a bit frustrating. Look, he was a hero for me in Game Week 1, even though he was really a villain in real life, because he should have given away a penalty against Wolves. There's no doubt. He absolutely clattered Kalajic, and he actually ended up scoring Kalajic against Everton this week, ironically, whereas Onana got no points. So nil point for the goalkeeper. United were just all over the place defensively against Forest. I don't know what was going on. And Onana for that goal from Awani, what is he doing? He's like a racing car driving about the place, and he's hopping about on the goal line. Just, I don't know. It was weird from Onana, and as I say, we'll take those 9 points in Game Week 1, but since then it's not been good for Manchester United or from Andre Onana. But I still feel that he's not worth a transfer going forward, because goalkeepers are just too much of a luxury transfer to make, and Onana does have still routes to getting those save points. I just need that United defence to be a bit more sharp, and that has not been helped by reports of Rafael Varane being out. So I really hope United clean up defensively. But as I say, I'm not going to overthink that goalkeeper pick. It's just conceding 2 against Nottingham Forest side that, were pretty bad away from home. And then to top it all off, he gets himself a yellow card. Onana, that is not very nice. And, we talked about him so good in Game Week 1. Onana with his 9-pointer. But this week it was Onana with his 0 point. But we move on to the defence. Then we had interesting points here because, as I say, the clean sheets are just not coming in for these defenders. But the decision to bring in Chilwell was vindicated because that's exactly what I got against Luton. I thought that was going to be the case. But then, Chilwell, my guy, you decide to not shoot when I own you. I mean, what's that about? He was having shots for days against West Ham and against Liverpool. And then the one moment he gets into the box, literally cleaning on goal, you can just bury that, Ben, and you'll be absolutely loving it. And I'll be loving you for my team. And what does he do? He decides to pass the ball. And it gets cut out from the Luton defence. I mean, why would you pass it there? It's literally one-on-one. Just have a pop. You know you're so good going forward. You've scored goals. So it just made me so frustrated that it could have been so much more for Chilwell. And I went into that Luton game thinking I want to attack that Luton game, but I'm also not that sure about Chelsea as an attack. So I went in just with Chilwell, and oh my days, when Jackson scored, it was painful. When Gusto got the 14-pointer, it was painful. Or was it at 14? Yeah, I think it was. It was painful. And then, of course, let's not forget Raheem Sterling with a 19-pointer, rolling back the years of when he was a brilliant FPL premium asset at Man City. Wonder if he can, be his season. I did say at the start of the year I thought Sterling would be the next Rashford from last season. I put out a tweet saying that. So, yeah, interesting that. But the way I look at it is Chelsea are still a bit of a wait and see in attack. Because, look, at the end of the day, they looked good against Luton. They didn't look great against West Ham. They looked not okay, all right against Liverpool. But it is Luton, right? We've got to take Luton with a pinch of salt because most teams will beat them this season. And that's not even just my Watford bias kicking in. That is genuinely watching them. They are nowhere near the standard required for this Premier League. So I think if you're going to score goals against Luton, then yeah, expected, fair enough. But if you can do it in the other games, then that would be great to see. I think I might just have to be a bit patient on the likes of Jackson. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Rico Henry, I mean, this was just disgusting. And I'm going to bring up the most painful part of this week for me now. I talked about Matty Cash coming out, fairly logical transfer. Rico Henry, I knew, was nailed. He starts every game. He always looks so attacking, and I, really like the look of him in that first game at home to Tottenham. Got the assist, of course. Then decided to not get an attacking contribution against Fulham, but gets booked. All right, we'll take the clean sheet this week. All right, I was aware that Palace was not an easy fixture from a defensive point of view. Sorry, like in terms of Palace are quite a good defence. So I thought, yeah, okay, I brought in Mbuemo, but he's in great form, so it'll be fine. He'll hopefully score. But I also looked at it as this should be a good fixture for a clean sheet for the Brentford defence because Palace, they are a massive goal-scoring team. Eze's not been in great form. All right, Edouard scored 1, but that's really it. So I looked at it and thought, yeah, hopefully a clean sheet. I mean, it won't be easy, but hopefully a clean sheet. Flecken played brilliantly, and I really wish I'd gone with Flecken over Onana in Game Week 1. But the way I looked at it was, maybe it was an effective ownership thing with Onana. Everyone was getting him in. I just didn't back Flecken in pre-season. He didn't look great, I'll be honest. But yeah, I wish I'd gone for him now over Henry in that Brentford defence. But look, it is what it is. And then they decide to concede. I mean, it's just of all players, Joachim Andersen. Because in Game Week 1, I also went for a differential of Mark Guéhi in that Palace defence. He did, nothing much amazing, but, it's a decent points of 6 in Game Week 1. Got me my clean sheet against Sheffield United. And then the following game week, I decided to bench Guéhi, which was the right decision, right? He had Arsenal. But then I realised that if Gabriel hadn't have played, which, he did, unfortunately, in the game week 2 fixture, it came on for a 1-pointer, then I would have got Guéhi off the bench, right? But if that's Anderson, that would have been brilliant because in game week 1, as I said, he got more points than Guéhi. Guéhi got 6. Anderson got all 3 bonus. Okay, fine. It's a 2-pointer, but I wouldn't mind it. It was more than Gabriel if I'd have had Anderson, over him, and I'd have had no minutes from Gabriel. And the thing about that Palace game was Gabriel didn't need to come on, really. I mean, they were 1-0 up. Okay, they're trying to protect the lead, but it's just so frustrating, Arteta. And we'll get to Gabriel in a second because we did bring in Chilwell for Gabriel. But yeah, regarding Henry, I mean, of all games, yeah, Palace, and then it's Anderson, the guy that I didn't go for over Gehi, who somehow has, got less points than Anderson. It's such an unlucky 50-50 call. And so, yeah, if I'd have, got my Anderson points and started in this week, I'd have been absolutely loving it. But no, it wasn't to be. But what I will say with the Gabriel situation was I was very happy to see Gabriel on the bench yet again for a third game. Some people still kept the faith, and I was like, I couldn't. After game week 2 and seeing him bench for a second time in a row, I was like, this guy, he's not going to start. It just doesn't make sense in Arteta's new system he wants to play. So he came out, Chilwell came in, lovely 6-point swing that. Very, very nice transfer. But ultimately, Rico Henry, frustrating because, because he came in game week 2 for guess who? Matty Cash. And he decided, just because he wasn't starting in my team this week, that, he'd just rub it in. And I actually, funnily enough, tweeted just before the Aston Villa Burnley game, I should say. And, it's as if Matty Cash looked at my X account and looked at my post and said, tell you what we're going to do now. We're going to make Roberto's life an absolute misery. So I can tell you exactly what I said in this tweet, right? I can tell you. I actually tweeted, I can't remember what the time was. It probably was like at least 30 minutes before kickoff or something. Yeah, so I'd previously tweeted about Cash with the Everton game saying, when you need Everton to score a goal to wipe out the Cash clean sheet, and then you remember Everton are hopeless in attack. So I'd seen that, obviously, that Henry had got the 5-pointer. I needed Cash to concede. Everton, useless. But then, at exactly 1:04, right? The lineups came out at about 1 o'clock. I think it was a 2 o'clock kickoff against Burnley. At 1:04, I tweeted out with a gif of Cash because I saw he was starting yet again. And that was despite him not playing in the Europa Conference, right? So I felt quite good about myself with that transfer because I thought, he didn't play in the Europa Conference qualifier. Does that mean Cash isn't as nailed because Konza played there? And also, Emi Martinez was injured. So I thought, surely Martinez being injured means Cash will concede against Burnley. He won't get as many points. Villa defenders won't do as well. And they've got Liverpool coming up. Won't be easy. So I was like, I'm really happy with my decision. Then I get to the Villa game. I'm not joking, about, 8 minutes in? And I get a Fantasy Premier League notification, Cash goal. I literally tweeted out at 1:04, Cash is starting again for Villa. Please don't punish me this time after I sold him in Game Week 2. I tweeted it out, just before that Game Week 3 game kicked off. And it was like Cash looked at that and thought, yep, I'm going to be motivated now. I've got a reason to score goals, and I'll just get 2 as well. Not just the 1, but 2. Yeah, thank you, Matty. Really do not appreciate that, mate. It's absolutely ruined my game week. So thanks a lot, mate. Matty Cash, no need at all. And, there was reasoning behind that Henry decision. As I say, I didn't think Cash was nailed. It was just one of those things, right? 8 minutes in and a Cash goal. You just can't write these things. And I did tweet out and say, Cash, obviously, 2 goals. When has he scored 2 goals in a match in his career? Never. So it is very unlucky with that. But I really did think that Henry was great with Brentford's fixtures going forward. And as I say, it felt the correct decision at the time in Game Week 2. Because, I thought that Cash wasn't nailed. But I guess, this is FPL, right? Players can score the week later. It just all evens out eventually. And this is unfortunately what happened. So feels very, very sad that because, it's a 15-point swing in Game Week 3. And, a 1-point swing in Game Week 2. So, look, I'd have been so much better off. I'd have had a green arrow if it wasn't for making that transfer in Game Week 2. And if I'd have just, rolled the transfer in 2, I'd have not done a hit. I'd have just had Cash for the Villa game, had Cash for the Burnley game and started him. And then I would have just used those 2 free transfers, or maybe one of them maybe in Game Week 3, somewhere else. But I would have had the 17-pointer that Cash ended up getting. So it's painful. It's painful, but we have to move on from it. We make mistakes. It's all about how you can bounce back from them. And we move on to Estupinian. I mean, look, this was just a big shocker. I did not see this coming. I thought, genuinely, Brighton would batter West Ham. I didn't think it would be like a 7-0 or anything, but I thought it'd be like a fairly comfortable 3-1 or 4-1. But no, West Ham, I mean, look, they were brilliant against Chelsea, but I thought that was more Chelsea imploding. But no, really good away performance from West Ham. And yeah, Stupinian, he's never leaving my team because of the fact that he's just so attacking. I mean, again, the Watford bias maybe kicking in, but I just think he's so good. And you can start him in any fixture, and he's got a chance of attacking returns. And look, 64% owned. I'm not going to take him out and bet against that ownership. It would just be foolish in my view. So yeah, Rico, I'm not happy with you, but hopefully in Game Week 4 you can do a bit better. And Estupinian, I'm going to keep you. Chilwell, I feel good about owning him with the fixtures coming up, but oh my days, Matty Cash, just leave it out, mate. Midfield then, let's talk about that midfield. So it was an interesting midfield really because, not many players actually did well in midfield this week other than the Manchester United lads. So I didn't actually have Rashford this week, or I haven't started with him, I should say. And so, of course, the first 2 weeks, a bit like Chilwell, I was hiding behind the sofa with Rashford. But I was really happy with that because I'd kind of not got punished. Certainly in Game Week 2, right? With Chilwell, he got the 1-pointer. And then Rashford, I was so convinced I was going to get slaughtered by him. And, he didn't do well in the first 2. And I was like, come on. He's so highly owned. And for once, one of those effective ownership risks is going to actually pay off. Okay, Fernandes did get more points, so that was nice to see. But he did, of course, get the 2 assists, Rashford. And now that he's playing that favoured left position, I am a bit worried going into Game Week 4. I know that United haven't been good, and neither has been Rashford, but he has got a very good record against Arsenal, who he's facing next in Game Week 4. But look, it's not the easiest fixtures. Rashford's not been banging in the goals, so hopefully that can carry on, not, hurting my rank. But look, Fernandes, absolutely the star of the week. My team name moulded on Bruno, so he had to come true eventually. And look, on penalties, we knew he was so creative. We knew how good he can be, and it was a fantastic penalty. But to get the assist as well, it was just music to my ears, and just what you love to see, really. I'm very happy to see that. I was quite surprised Bruno was actually quite lowly owned. I mean, some people went for double United attack, which, to be honest, I'm quite glad I didn't, with how underwhelming United have been at the start of this FPL season. But yeah, I was quite surprised. Fernandes wasn't that highly owned, so to get those differential points was lovely stuff in comparison to Rashford. And yeah, just hopefully Bruno can use this as a springboard to have a really good FPL season. I mean, look, I just think 8.5 is just an absolute joke of a price for a player that we know can score big FPL points and be that premium. But ultimately, United was a bit better. Arsenal, though, on the other hand, that was a bit underwhelming. And Ødegaard last week was painful when he took that penalty against Palace. And I was like, come on, Saka should be on them, fuming. But to see Ødegaard give them back to Saka this week was just music to my ears. And Saka, great penalty. Finally, another goal in my team. I mean, the goals were very few and far between this week. But yeah, great goal. And Saka, the star boy, he's not going anywhere. He's absolutely nailed in my team. Nailed in the Arsenal team, but also in my team. Because he is first choice. He's always going to play 90 minutes or thereabouts. And Martinelli's a bit more of a problem going forward. Because look, Champions League's on the horizon, right, for Arsenal. Martinelli does get minutes rotated with Trossard. He did play 90 against Fulham, but that's not often that happens. It's usually Trossard will come on for him. Or, Jesus, will sometimes play instead of him. I mean, the way I look at it is Jesus now wasn't fit to start against Fulham. And to be fair to Nketiah, he did score to prove his point. Doing very well Nketiah off the bench. But what I will say is Martinelli does become a good option with Jesus in the team. However, he also becomes a bit more of a minutes risk, I think, with Jesus as well. Because they can then, as I say, bring on Trossard for Martinelli. So, yeah, it's one of those ones with Martinelli. He's only got one attacking return. It was that amazing, Maradona roulette assist against Nottingham Forest. But yeah, it's squeaky bum time with him. So wonder if I keep him. Wonder if I sell him. We'll have to see. Mitoma, oh my days. I mean, what an underwhelming game it was from him. To get booked as well, just no need for it, Kaoru. You've been so good for me the last couple of weeks. So yeah, bit of a shame. But to be honest, I was quite glad in a way because with that Brighton game, it was painful seeing Pedro on the bench yet again. My star boy does not deserve this, right? If he'd have started that game, I'm convinced he's scoring, and I'm convinced Brighton are winning the game. But no, Roberto De Zerbi has to be the next Pep, and has to just rotate for no reason and play Ferguson with Welbeck. I mean, that is just bonkers in my view. But anyway, he does what he likes, and Mitoma was so highly owned for all the Brighton players. So for him to then match what Pedro ended up getting, I felt quite good about that. And I know it's weird to say that with owning both of them, but, I thought maybe Pedro was going to massively, underwhelm compared to the other Brighton assets in this game. But he didn't start the game. He got very much similar. I mean, not many people own Pascal Gross, let's be honest. So it's good to see that the other Brighton lads didn't punish me with that Pedro pick. But yeah, Mitoma's, still very good. I think he's still one of the best Brighton players you can have. I do slightly prefer him to March. I know that March has got more points, but the way I look at it is Mitoma, I think, will play more minutes. There is Europa League coming up for them, so watch out for that, I guess. But yeah, still a very good asset in my view. So then we finish off the midfield with the most frustrating of all, Brian Mbeumo. Just why are you deciding to blank as soon as I bring you in? There's no need. As I mentioned, Palace, just annoying, and it's Sharda that gets the goal. I mean, I don't know. I didn't watch the Brentford game in full 90 minutes. Whether or not Mbeumo had loads of chances or not, I don't know. But for me, there's logic to why I brought him in. I'm going to keep him, obviously, because of how good the fixtures are going forward. And he's still been in fairly good form, right? It's just one game he's blanked since I brought him in. So just got to be patient, I think, with that. And hopefully he'll get the goals and get the returns he's been getting recently. But just didn't work this week, unfortunately. So then, yeah, I did end up selling Salah for Mbeumo. And Salah, of course, got the assist up at Newcastle, but only the 5 points. It's a 3-point swing. It's really not that much of a big deal. But the forward line is a bit of a frustrating one because I did kind of debate between buying Mbeumo and selling Pedro, and ended up doing Mbeumo because I thought he was just needing to be owned. Because I looked at the Brighton press conference and De Zerbi said Ferguson starts. He also said that Enciso's out, so I thought, oh, that's fine. Ferguson will play as the 9, Pedro as the 10. But no, he decides to play Ferguson as the 10 and Welbeck as the 9. It was really weird. So yeah, look, I can't do this anymore with De Zerbi. He's too elusive. And when it comes to Pedro, he deserves more minutes, but he's not getting them, and it's just a real disappointing sight to be seen. I mean, he did well for me Gameweek 1 at least with that goal against Luton. But yeah, just it's really a bit of a shame. So he's probably going to be going. He did outscore Gabriel, actually. I was considering Gabriel or Pedro who to sell first. And so Gabriel did get actually less than Pedro. But the way you look at it is, if I'd have had, obviously, Udogi or, Malagusto on the first bench, then I'd have preferred to have had Gabriel starting to get the auto sub. But, of course, my bench is not stacked with points, so that's not a problem. But yeah, Pedro, annoying, of course. So we'll have to see if we can find some replacements for him. And then Erling Haaland. Haaland, you always seem to score the penalties, and all of a sudden, you can't score the penalties. I mean, what's that about? But look, I'll forgive him because he scored the goal. And Sheffield United, I put up more of a fight than I thought. I thought City would comfortably get past them. They only just won in the end, City. And Rodri scoring a couple goals this season. I'm not saying he's an FPL option, but, just watch this space because Gundogan's gone, KDB's gone. Could Rodri play a bit further forward with Kovacic playing a bit defensive? I don't know. It's weird, but I'm probably not going to go there. I still think I prefer the City triple up of like players like Akanji or actually no, not Akanji because he missed the game against Sheffield United. But for instance, maybe in defence, someone like Gvardiol or Diaz, and then maybe an Alvarez in the attack for going alongside Erling. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, Haaland, he's still got a return at least, but we just keep going with the perma captain because he's just the best player in the game. It still stands still. Turner 3 points. Look, the fact that Onana's been outscored by Turner in the same fixture is pretty outrageous. And look, at least Turner does get save points, so you got to give him that. But yeah, it's a bit of a. I was never going to have done that, so I was never going to back Forest with too much weight on that United home fixture, and having Fernandes in my team, wasn't going to bet against Bruno. So look, it was just a weird one, but it's certainly he's a 4.0 keeper. He's a bit of a gem. Maybe I should have gone with Onana and Areola as my two keepers because I did have Areola for most of pre-season, and then some people on Twitter just taught me out. going for Areola, and Turner was coming in. So I'm a bit annoyed that I didn't stick to my own guns and I got persuaded too easily there. But at the end of the day, as good as Areola's doing, we'll have to see if you want those points on the bench. Like if Areola's saving penalties every week, you don't want those 10 pointers on your bench. But no, it's not likely to happen. But yeah, anyway, Mark Gay. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, glad I benched him because I did feel that Brentford would score in that game. I just hoped it would be Brian Mbeumo, not blooming Sharda. But anyway, and then Baldock as well, 1 pointer. Good to see him back fit after he missed the game week 2 fixture against Forest. But look, at the end of the day, I still feel he's the best 4.0 defender. Some people will disagree. Obviously, when you have the likes of Kabore, obviously the main standout we know is Malagusto, right? He got the 2 assists last week, but I mean, in terms of 4.0s we could have foreseen at the start of the season before Reece James got injured, then yeah, I still feel that Baldock is probably amongst them, the best there is. Even if Sheffield United defensively don't look great, I just think Baldock is pretty nailed, and I think he'll get forward sometimes. But yeah, 4.0s, like especially Malagusto, right? He's not worth bringing in just for the vibes because he did well against Luton. Like it's not not that deep, but the way I look at it is, James could come back in a couple of game weeks, so it's just too short term for me, Malagusto. The other one I got to shout out is Destiny Udogie. Look, I'll give him a lot of creds here because he did look good in pre-season. I didn't go there because Spurs defensively I just didn't trust, and they didn't keep a clean sheet against Brentford. 2 conceded, but then that clean sheet against United, I admit I did not expect that. But maybe that was just a poor finishing from United. But then, yeah, Udogie comes up with his first attacking contribution against Bournemouth. And yeah, fair enough to those that had him. But those that got him off the bench, for Gabriel, I mean, you are very, very jammy. So, you won't get that kind of jam all season. But look, at the end of the day, fair play if you picked Udogie. And then Mubama, these players that don't get many minutes, they're just bench fodder. We don't need to transfer them out or transfer them in. It's just leave them there. They're not really a factor when players, come on for the extended minutes. Like we got injury time more this season, so these kind of bench fodder players, if they don't start, they'll at least come on. So there's just no need really to have an expensive bench at this stage in FPL, in my opinion. But yeah, as I say, with the likes of those cheapies, and I could get in a doggy, but as I say, I'm not sure defensive transfers are the priority right now. So yeah, what did Game Week 3 do for my rank? Well, I guess you can only imagine it was not ideal with a Game Week rank of 4 million. And as you can see there, my overall rank of 1.5 million. So I was really happy about my start to the season. And I'm just going to say that thank God I had a great Game Week 1 because I ended up scoring 84 points. But Game Week 3 and Game Week 2 were absolutely... It was just abysmal. So I don't know what to say. Ultimately, it's a sad one to see. We've gone down from 640k to 1.5 million. But as I say, we go again in game week number 4, and I'll give you my preview for that in a future video. Hope you have enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.